History is filled with tales of kings and who ruled with power, pride and passion, rulers whose greed and desire shaped nations, and sometimes destroyed them. But today, we're not speaking of any king or emperor. Our story is about a woman, a queen, whose intelligence built an empire, and whose private life became one of history's most controversial legends. Her name was Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia, in the pages of history. Catherine stands among the most powerful rulers Europe has ever seen. She turned Russia into a global empire, stretching from the frozen north to the borders of Europe and Asia. But behind the crown and the glory, there lived a woman with secrets so shocking that centuries later, they still echo through the halls of history to some. She was a genius, a visionary leader to others. She was a symbol of excess, arrogance, and scandal. This is her story. Catherine was born in 1729 in a small town of then part of Poland. Her real name was Sophie Frederick August, a young noblewoman from a modest German family. She was ambitious from childhood, dreaming not of love or luxury, but of greatness. When she was just 15, destiny came knocking. She was chosen to marry Grand Duke Peter, the heir to the Russian throne, grandson of Peter the Great himself. It was a marriage arranged for power, not affection. Catherine quickly learned that the Russian court was cold, dangerous, and filled with secrets. Her husband, Peter III, was immature, unstable, and cruel. He admired the Prussian king more than his own people, and his reckless behavior made him deeply unpopular among the nobles and the military. Catherine, on the other hand, was clever. She learned the Russian language, adopted the Orthodox faith, and won the hearts of the people. While Peter isolated himself, Catherine quietly built allies in the palace, in the church, in the army, and among the nobles. By the time Peter ascended the throne in 1762, his downfall had already begun. Just 6 months into his reign, a coup was staged. Catherine, with the help of loyal guards and generals, seized power. Peter was arrested and mysteriously died soon after, some say by assassination, others by natural causes. Historians still debate Catherine's involvement, but one thing is certain: within days, she was crowned Empress of all Russia, and for the next 34 years, she ruled one of the largest empires in the world. Under her rule, Russia transformed. She modernized the administration, promoted education, encouraged the arts, and invited philosophers from across Europe to her court. Catherine dreamed of making Russia a land of enlightenment, a bridge between East and West. She wrote letters to Voltaire, debated politics with scholars, and collected vast libraries of books to her admirers. She was the embodiment of progress, a queen who ruled with intellect and strength. But behind the golden throne, another story was unfolding, one far darker. Catherine's personal life was as intense as her political ambitions. Her marriage to Peter had been loveless, and after his death, she surrounded herself with men who offered her affection, loyalty, or simply amusement. She had many favorites: handsome officers, poets, diplomats, men who came and went from her life as swiftly as the seasons changed. Some she rewarded with titles and estates, others she dismissed without a second thought. Too many at court. Her behavior became a subject of whispers and scandal to her enemies in Europe. It became a weapon, a way to tarnish her name and question her morality. Rumors grew over the years, some real, others grotesque lies spread by her rivals. The most infamous of them claimed that she had unnatural relationships, even with animals, a story historians later proved false, yet one that haunted her legacy for centuries. What is true, however, is that Catherine was a woman of passion, driven not only by power, but by a need to be desired, admired, and remembered in her court. Beauty and charm often became a currency of influence, yet Catherine was far from weak. She was a brilliant strategist. She led Russia through 2 major wars against the Ottoman Empire. Expanding her borders to the Black Sea, she annexed vast territories from Poland, effectively erasing that kingdom from the map. Her empire now stretched farther than any Prussian ruler before her. She built new cities, improved trade routes, and brought wealth and prestige to her nation. Under her leadership, Russia became a superpower, respected, feared, and envied across Europe. But the more power she gained, the lonelier she became. She ruled a nation of millions, yet trusted only a handful of people. Her palace, filled with gold and marble, became a gilded cage. Even as she grew older, Catherine's desire for companionship never faded. She surrounded herself with young advisors and companions, some loyal, some only seeking power. Each new favorite became a reflection of her inner loneliness, a queen searching for connection in a world that saw her only as a ruler, not as a woman. Despite her personal controversies, Catherine's achievements cannot be denied. She reformed Russia's legal system, encouraged education for women, and founded the Smolny Institute, the first state school for girls in Europe. She promoted science, literature, and architecture, turning St. Petersburg into a city of art and learning. Her reign was not just about expansion, but transformation. She turned a once isolated kingdom into a modern European power. However, power always comes with enemies. While Catherine built her empire, revolts broke out within her own land. The most dangerous was led by Yemelyan Pugachev, a rebel who claimed to be her dead husband, Peter III, for years. He led a bloody uprising that threatened to tear Russia apart. Catherine's armies crushed the rebellion, but it reminded her of a truth every ruler fears: that no empire, no matter how vast, is unbreakable. By the 1790s, Catherine was in her 60s. Europe was changing fast. The French Revolution had erupted, and kings and queens were losing their heads. She feared that the same revolutionary fire might spread to Russia, determined to protect her throne. She increased her control, silencing dissent and strengthening her army. But fate had other plans. In November 1796, Catherine suffered a sudden stroke. Within hours, the woman who had ruled an empire for 3 decades, who had faced kings, rebellions, and endless scandals, was gone. Her death shocked the world. She was buried beside her husband, the very man whose downfall had brought her to power. A final irony in a life full of contradictions. Today, historians remember Catherine the Great not for the rumors that followed her, but for the empire she built. Under her reign, Russia became a cultural, political, and military giant, one that would influence the world for centuries to come. She was far from perfect. She was ambitious, cunning, and flawed. But she was also one of the most remarkable women in history. A ruler who defied her era. A queen who turned scandal into strength. And a woman whose name, even today, commands both awe and mystery. Catherine the Great, Empress, who rose from a small town in Poland to the throne of the largest empire on earth. A woman who conquered nations, and yet could never conquer her own heart. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story of power, passion, and history, don't forget to subscribe to